I had stopped believing in magic years ago, around the same time. My marriage ended and my 40s began, with more questions than answers. But on New Year's Eve, in a crowded art gallery where champagne flowed and strangers counted down to midnight, magic found me anyway. Her name was Diane, and she wore confidence like a second skin, moving through the room as if she could see threads of destiny invisible to everyone else. When the countdown reached 0 and the room erupted in celebration, she walked straight through the crowd, her eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. She didn't ask permission. She simply cupped my face in her hands, whispered Happy New Year, beautiful, and kissed me so thoroughly that the cheering crowd faded into white noise. In that moment, between one year and the next, everything changed. This is the story of how a single kiss became the doorway to a love I never knew I was brave enough to want. The gallery was a kaleidoscope of noise and glitter, and I wanted to disappear into the nearest canvas. At 47 New Year's Eve parties felt performative, full of forced joy and resolutions no one would keep past January. I'd only come because my best friend Marcus insisted. I needed to re-enter the world of the living, his diplomatic way of saying I'd become a hermit since my divorce. 2 years prior, I stood near a painting of fractured mirrors, nursing sparkling cider, and wondering if anyone would notice if I slipped out early. That's when I saw her, a woman in a crimson dress that hugged curves unapologetically. Her silver-streaked dark hair swept back in an elegant twist. She moved through the crowd with purpose, stopping occasionally to exchange words, her laugh rich and genuine in a sea of polite chuckles. Something about her magnetic presence made me forget to look away when her gaze swept across the room. Our eyes met, held, a small smile played at her lips before she turned back to her conversation, but I felt the encounter like a touch. Earth to Rachel, Marcus appeared at my elbow, following my line of sight. Well, Diane, architect, philanthropist, and according to rumor, recently single, after a very amicable split from her partner of 12 years. I wasn't. I started to protest. Oh, please, you were staring like she's the last piece of chocolate in existence. He grinned. She's also notoriously direct. If she's interested, you'll know. The crowd began gathering near the champagne fountain as midnight approached. I found myself swept into the mass of bodies, positioned near the center where I could see the clock projected on the far wall. 15 minutes to midnight. My phone buzzed a text from my daughter Emma. Happy almost New Year. Mom, hope you're having actual fun and not hiding in a corner. Love you. I smiled, typing back a reassurance, when the crowd shifted and suddenly she was there. Diane, close enough that I caught her scent jasmine and something woodsy. Sophisticated. You're hiding, she said, her voice warm with amusement. I'm observing, I corrected, my heart hammering. Double quotes. Ah, and what have you observed? Her eyes, deep brown with flecks of gold, studied me with genuine curiosity. That you command every room you enter, that your laugh is the only authentic sound in here, that you're either very brave or very reckless to wear heels that high on gallery floors. She threw back her head and laughed, the sound cutting through the party chatter. Rachel Morris, Marcus pointed you out earlier, said you were brilliant, kind, and convinced you were invisible. I'm working on the invisible part. Pity, she said softly, stepping closer. You're the most interesting person here. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. I don't believe in New Year's magic, I whispered. Neither did I, Diane replied, her hand finding mine, until about 5 minutes ago. 3, 2, 1 and then her lips were on mine, and the entire world shifted on its axis. The kiss lasted both an eternity and a heartbeat. When Diane pulled back, the crowd around us was cheering, confetti falling like colored snow, but all I could see was her face, eyes bright with something that looked like wonder. I started, my mind blank of coherent thought. I'm not sorry, she said firmly, though her hand trembled slightly in mine. I saw you when I arrived, and I couldn't stop looking. When midnight came, kissing you felt like the only honest thing to do. Around us, people were hugging, toasting, taking selfies. Marcus caught my eye across the room and gave me an exaggerated thumbs up. I should have felt embarrassed, exposed. Instead, I felt alive in a way I couldn't remember feeling in years. I'm 52 years old, Diane continued, as if we were mid-conversation. I spent too much of my life being careful, being appropriate. This year, I decided to lead with truth. My truth is that I wanted to kiss you the moment I saw you pretending that painting was more interesting than the party. It was more interesting, I managed, finding my voice, until you walked over. Her smile could have lit the entire gallery. Would you like to get out of here? There's a rooftop garden, 2 blocks away. Private. Quiet. We could actually talk without shouting over drunk renditions of Auld Lang Syne. Every sensible instinct told me to decline, to go home to my safe, predictable apartment and forget this ever happened. But something new was stirring inside me, something that felt like courage, or maybe just exhaustion with playing it safe. Yes, I heard myself say, I'd like that. We retrieved our coats, and I texted Marcus that I was leaving. His response was immediate. Get IT, girl. Call me tomorrow with all the details. Outside, the winter air was sharp and clean, the city streets filled with revelers. Diane hailed a cab with the ease of someone used to getting what she wanted, and within minutes we were gliding through the glittering streets. I should probably mention, I said, as we climbed the stairs to the rooftop garden, a hidden gem, atop a converted warehouse. I haven't dated anyone since my divorce, and even before that, I knew I was attracted to women, but I never acted on it. Diane unlocked the garden gate with a key from her purse. My firm designed this space. I come here when I need to think. She led me through an archway covered in dormant wisteria to a seating area overlooking the city. Fairy lights strung overhead cast a soft glow, and outdoor heaters fought back the cold. As for the other thing, she continued, settling onto a cushioned bench and patting the space beside her, there's no timeline, Rachel. I kissed you because something in me recognized something in you. Where that goes, if anywhere, we'll figure out together. I sat, our shoulders touching, and stared out at the city skyline. Fireworks were still going off somewhere in the distance, bursts of color against the dark sky. I spent 20 years in a marriage where I loved my husband but wasn't in love with him. I found myself confessing. We were best friends who made a life together, had a beautiful daughter. When we finally admitted the truth that we'd been more companionship than passion for years, the divorce was almost a relief. And now, Diane asked gently, now I'm figuring out who I am outside of being someone's wife, someone's mother. I'm good at my work. I'm a therapist good at helping others, but myself. I laughed shakily. That's still a work in progress. Diane turned to face me fully, her expression serious. I spent 12 years with a woman I respected deeply. We built a life, a home, but somewhere along the way, we became more business partners than lovers. The split was mutual, necessary. We still talk every week, wish each other well. She paused. But I've been lonely, Rachel, successful, surrounded by people, and profoundly lonely. Until tonight, I asked softly. Until I saw you, she corrected. Until I decided to stop waiting for the perfect moment and create one instead. The city sprawled before us, a million lights marking a million stories, and somewhere in that vast tapestry, 2 women were beginning something new. We talked until 3 in the morning, bundled under the blanket. Diane kept in a storage bench, sharing stories like teenagers at a sleepover. I learned she'd grown up in Chicago, the daughter of Italian immigrants who'd expected her to marry and produce grandchildren. Coming out at 25 had fractured some family relationships. Though time had healed most wounds, she'd built her architecture firm from nothing, designing spaces that brought light into darkness. I told her about growing up in a small Pennsylvania town, where being different meant being invisible, about marrying David at 23 because it seemed like the script I was supposed to follow, about Emma, now 22 and living in Portland, who'd hugged me after the divorce and said, I just want you to be happy, Mom, really happy. When do you see her next? Diane asked, her head resting on my shoulder in a gesture that felt both natural and revolutionary. She's visiting in 2 weeks. I'm terrified and excited to tell her about whatever this is, Diane repeated, amusement in her voice. What do you want it to be? I took a breath, feeling the weight of the question. The old Rachel would have deflected, changed the subject. The new one, the one born at midnight, decided to be brave. I want to see you again, and again. I want to explore this feeling like I'm waking up after a long sleep. I want to be terrified and do it anyway. Diane lifted her head, her eyes searching mine. I have a confession. I've been coming to Marcus's events for months, hoping you'd show up. He mentioned you constantly, his brilliant friend who was too scared to live. Tonight, when you finally came, I promised myself I'd take the chance. You planned this? I asked, somewhere between shocked and delighted. I planned to introduce myself, she admitted. The kissing was pure impulse. Sometimes the universe gives you a perfect moment, and you have to be brave enough to seize it. As dawn began to paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, we finally stood to leave. My phone had long since died, and I knew Marcus would be frantic, but I couldn't bring myself to care. This night, this beginning felt too precious to rush. "Can I take you to breakfast?" Diane asked as we descended the stairs. "There's a place nearby that does the most incredible French toast." "I look like I've been out all night," I protested weakly. "You look like a woman who's been kissed at midnight and spent the hours after falling into something wonderful," she countered. "Also, I don't care, and neither should you." We ended up at a tiny diner with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that could wake the dead. An elderly couple in the corner smiled at us knowingly. The waitress called us hun, and didn't bat an eye when Diane casually held my hand across the table. "I have a business trip next week," Diane said, pouring syrup over her French toast with the precision of an architect. "London, for days. Come with me." I nearly choked on my coffee. "That's insane. I have clients, responsibilities, reschedule them." "Take a risk, Rachel. When was the last time you did something completely spontaneous?" "This," I gestured between us. "Last night. This is the most spontaneous thing I've done in decades." "Then, you're on a roll," she grinned. "Besides, I'll be working during the days. You'd have time to explore, write in cafes, do whatever therapists do when they're not there, and the nights." Her eyes held a promise that made my pulse quicken. The nights would be ours. I thought about my neat, organized calendar, about the routines I'd built to feel safe, about Emma's text encouraging me to have fun, about turning 47, and realizing how much life I'd spent waiting for permission to want things. "Okay," I heard myself say, "yes, I'll come to London." Diane's smile could have powered the entire city. "New year, new you, new us," I corrected, squeezing her hand. Outside the diner window, the city was waking up to the first day of a new year, and somewhere inside me, something that had been sleeping was finally, gloriously awake. London was a revelation. Not just the city though, it was magnificent. All history and modernity woven together, but the experience of being with Diane. We walked through the British Museum, her explaining architectural details, while I watched her face light up with passion. We had afternoon tea at Claridge's, laughing at how absurdly posh it was. We kissed in the rain outside the Globe Theatre, and I finally understood what people meant when they said they felt like teenagers in love. But more than the romance, I discovered something about myself. I could be spontaneous. I could take risks. I could wake up in a beautiful woman's arms and not feel guilty or scared, just grateful. On our last night, we stood on the Millennium Bridge as the Thames flowed beneath us, the city lights reflecting on the water like fallen stars. "I'm falling in love with you," Diane said quietly. "I know it's fast, maybe too fast, but I've learned that time isn't the measure of truth. Depth is." My throat tightened with emotion. I spent so many years not letting myself feel this, convinced I was broken somehow, that wanting women made me selfish or wrong. Even after the divorce, I couldn't imagine actually acting on it. "And now," she asked, her arm around my waist. "Now, I wonder what took me so long to find you, to find myself." I turned to face her fully. "I'm falling to Diane, hard and fast, and I'm not even scared." "Liar," she said affectionately. "You're terrified. So am I, but we're doing it anyway." Back home, Emma took the news better than I'd dared hope. We met for lunch, and I fumbled through an explanation before she cut me off. "Mom, I've been waiting for this for years. You think I didn't notice how you'd go quiet when certain actresses came on screen, how you'd light up around women in a way you never did with men." She reached across the table, taking my hand. "I'm so happy you found Diane. I'm so happy you found you." "When did you get so wise?" I asked, blinking back tears. "I had a pretty great therapist for a mother," she grinned, "one who taught me that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be." The months that followed were a beautiful chaos of discovery. Diane and I navigated the awkward dance of merging lives, her penthouse to my cozy apartment, her love of opera to my preference for jazz, her morning person energy to my night owl tendencies. We argued about whose turn it was to cook, laughed over terrible movies, and made love with the passion of people who'd waited too long to be honest about what they wanted. My practice thrived as I brought new authenticity to my work. Clients sensed the change in me, a groundedness, a joy I hadn't possessed before. I started a support group for women discovering their sexuality later in life. Watching them blossom the way I had, Diane's firm landed a major project community center that would serve LGBTQ youth. She threw herself into the design with fierce determination, creating spaces where young people could feel safe to be themselves. Watching her work was like watching poetry in motion. On New Year's Eve, exactly 1 year after that first kiss, we returned to the same gallery. Marcus had arranged a small gathering of friends, chosen family we'd built together. As midnight approached, Diane pulled me onto the same spot where we'd first kissed. "A year ago, I took the biggest risk of my life," she said loudly enough for our friends to hear. "I walked up to a beautiful stranger and kissed her, hoping she'd feel the magic too. Best impulse decision ever," I called out, making everyone laugh. "I'm not impulsive about this next part," Diane continued, her voice softening. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Rachel Morris, this year taught me that it's never too late to choose love, choose authenticity, choose joy. Will you marry me?" The world went silent. Then someone, probably Marcus, started counting down to midnight. 10, 9, 8. "Yes," I said, tears streaming down my face. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." 3. To one end, as we kissed again, surrounded by cheering friends, confetti falling like blessings, I realized that sometimes the best stories begin not at the start of something, but at the moment you're finally brave enough to claim what your heart has always known it wanted. 2 years later, we're married, blending our lives in ways that feel both miraculous and ordinary. I'm 50, Diane's 54, and we're more vibrant than we've ever been. Emma calls Diane her bonus mom, and we're planning trips to places we've always wanted to see. The magic of that New Year's Eve kiss wasn't that it changed us instantly, it was that it gave us permission to become who we'd always been underneath the fear. 2 women, mature enough to know what they want, brave enough to reach for it, wise enough to treasure it. Your turn. Have you ever had a moment that changed everything? A choice that led you to become more authentically yourself? Share your story in the comments below, because every person who speaks their truth makes it easier for the next person to do the same. Let's celebrate the courage it takes to choose love, especially when it comes later than expected. Drop a if this story touched you, and tell us, what brave choice are you making this year?